Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another market close. We are here once again today on the first trading day of July 1st. I hope everyone's been having a fun day. If you're a Tesla shareholder, you have been having a very, very, very fun day. Oh boy, we got TJ here. Before I even get started, look at that. 50 Dolores in the chat. Just a little something because our segment has been a freaking hit so far. Keep up the good work. Thank you, TJ. I appreciate that. Shout out to TJ. $50 super chat. If you guys don't follow TJ, make sure to follow TJ on YouTube. We're doing a really fun segment. We actually took some profits today on a couple stocks that were performing pretty well for us on puts that we sold. So thank you, TJ. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We've got a lot to talk about in today's show. Tesla, obviously. It's Tesla's day. I mean, Tesla's had a hell of a day, and Tesla hasn't had a run like this in a long time, dude. Last time Tesla was up the way it's up right now, it's been a minute. So really nice to see the momentum building on Tesla. We're going to talk about why that's happening, why I think that's happening, and what's going on in the world of Tesla. On top of that, the broader market turned pretty green, and it was kind of down in the morning when we got that ISM data and the PMI data, but ever since then, July ends up being a pretty good month for the stock market. July 1st actually ends up being a pretty good day for the stock market. So it was nice to see the market kind of switch and go green for a majority of stocks getting into the beginning of the year. So let me share this chart beginning of the second half of the trading year. This chart kind of sums up my thoughts for today. Today is historically a very bullish day. This is from Ryan Dietrich of Carson Group. S&P 500 returns on the first trading day of July over the past 30 years. There's only been 3 times it's been negative, and those 3 times it was down like 1 or 2%. And the last time, 2010, it was down 0.32%. So 2023, July 1st, even though 2023 was not the most bullish year in the first half of the year, it was still green, up 0.12%. Palantir is at 2587 right now. S&P is at 0.12%. So it looks like the S&P might end up turning out green for the rest of the day if this chart historically ends up holding up the way it's held up in the past. So nice to see the market ending up being green, and hopefully it stays green later throughout the day, which is basically for like 11 minutes. On top of that, we're going to talk about Tesla, but also we got to talk about Roaring Kitty. I had a follower on Twitter DM me a theory on what's going on with Roaring Kitty and what's going on with GameStop and Chewy. We talked about this morning. He disclosed a 9 million share position in Chewy, which is just insanity. When I woke, like yesterday, he got sued by some guy who has like 10 shares. And then today he decided to put in at least $200 million into GameStop or into Chewy. And I put out a tweet saying, I don't know how he's doing this. I don't know how he has the money to do this. Someone gave me a really interesting theory on why he has the money to do this. So we're going to talk about that and go in depth, because it's I got a lot of hate for it, I guess is what I'll say for putting that out there, that maybe he did something to get the money for Chewy. So we got a lot to talk about and discuss in that. All right, so let's start off with Tesla. Oh, by the way, did you guys saw Klay Thompson signed with the Mavericks? That was sad for Lakers fans, dude. That was sad. I thought he was going to go to the Lakers. I thought LeBron was going to get him. Signed a 3-year, $50 million deal with the Mavericks, bro. He wants to be with Kyrie and Luka. I was like, all right, I thought you wanted to be with Bronny and Bron James. But anyway, Tesla right here at 210 Dolores. So up 6% on the day. It actually peaked at 213. I think this is very, very exciting in the context of Tesla. Tesla has not had a green day like this for a long time. Let's analyze why this is happening. I think there's a couple of reasons. First of all, it doesn't feel random. It feels like someone knows something. Tesla does not add $50 billion of market cap randomly on a Monday morning. I mean, I mean, maybe the street decided to just start buying Tesla, but I think someone knows something about the delivery numbers that are coming out tomorrow. And if those delivery numbers end up being better than expected, which is kind of what I think is happening, that's why Tesla maybe is getting the benefit right here. So my 4 reasons why I think the street is giving Tesla some momentum today. Number 1, the first one, delivery numbers are going to be better than expected. Some people thought delivery might end up being at 435, which would be a big beat against the 411 number the street was expecting. And so if we get 435 or even 425, I think Tesla has some fun tomorrow sort of carrying on this momentum. So we'll see what the numbers look like, but I think that can get closer to 420, 425. Numbers two, it's July 1st, and funds are starting to realize that the 8-8 event might change the entire trajectory for the company. So given it's the first day of the second half of the year for the stock market, a lot of funds are probably rebalancing. They're probably figuring out what is going to be their strategy. They're probably making like heavy bets, either short or long on certain companies. And maybe Tesla, being the only one of the Max 7 that is not green this year, down 16% year to date, maybe the market's just like, you know what? It's time to bet on Tesla. It's time to bet on Elon. Apple's getting a little bit frothy given how it's gone up. You know, one could argue Nvidia is very frothy, adding $2 trillion in the past 12 months of market cap. So maybe Tesla is what's next. Number three, China insurance numbers were actually really good. Last week we got those numbers, and so maybe the street's going to think that, hey, maybe the delivery numbers are going to be good because the China insurance numbers are good. We know the European registration numbers were trash for Tesla, but China matters more, and so if China insurance numbers was good, maybe that's good for Tesla. And then finally, I think money just might be rotating from people that have profits and they're putting it into Tesla. Like if you bought Google at 120 this year or 125 and Google's at 180 right now, you might be taking some of those profits and saying, you know what? I don't know if Google has another $30, $40 run in it towards the end of the year at a $2.28 trillion market cap because it's already up about 30% year to date. But Tesla's down 16%. Tesla's a lot more exciting than search advertising. The robotaxi might end up being beyond our wildest expectations. Why don't I take a little bit of a bet on Tesla? And I think that's happening on an institutional level. I think there's a little bit of trimming across the board on stocks that have done very well and allocating into companies that haven't done well. IWM, are they up today? They are down a little bit. Nature is healing every time IWM goes down. If it's up, green on the day. So, the only part of this thesis that doesn't make sense is that if you were up big, you would probably rotate into something like small caps. But it seems like fund managers are just not choosing to bet on small caps every time. It gets some momentum, it gets shot down. But Tesla's not a small cap. Tesla is a company that is a generational company. And I think some fund managers are getting excited about the prospects. The other thing is if the 8-8 event happens and they say, hey, we're live in Austin today and you can like download the app and there's like, 20 to 40 robotaxis that are on the streets. Maybe that's another thing that makes investors feel, oh, this is actually happening. Elon's not just promising us some random date. It's like real. We need to take it seriously. Therefore, we need to get some more Tesla exposure. And so I think that's what's happening in the context of Tesla right now here on the day. And again, that delivery number, if it's bad, it could definitely take a hit tomorrow on the stock. We've seen Tesla dump all the time on bad news. Microsoft all-time highs. Wow, Microsoft's up 2%. Look at that. 3.39 trillion. Microsoft is now solidifying their role as the most valuable company in the world. So that's nice to see on Microsoft. But Tesla could dump tomorrow if the delivery numbers are bad. I just don't think it goes up 6% because the delivery numbers are bad. I think someone knows something. There's no way someone's buying, or the street's buying up 6% of Tesla, or getting Tesla to move up 6% because they're buying so many shares on a random Monday if they don't think the delivery number is going to be good. Now, maybe the street's wrong, but if the street's not wrong, then that's going to be good for Tesla. I'm sure everyone right now in the chat is like, damn, I should have bought more at 170 or 180. It happens every time with Tesla. And then when it gets to 170, 180, everyone's like, including me, everyone's like, well, it's just the car company. Every time, dude. Every time, like, well, it's just the car company. I mean, EVs aren't even that. You got to plug in your hybrid. And like, it's just like, it's not that, well, there's no gas. Like every single time it happens, bro. Every fucking time. Well, maybe this time's different. Maybe it actually holds up 200. And if it holds up 200, we're going to continue to see some momentum from Tesla. But that's what we got in the context of Tesla today. And if you bought the dip at that 140, 150 range, then congrats. Now, one other thing about Tesla, it was down 43% year to date. It's still down 16% year to date. If you bought the dip at 138, you are up 51% year to date. So you're only complaining about Tesla if you really didn't DCA, or if your average after DCAing still isn't the best. But if you bought in at that in those lows, I mean, you might have had a generational opportunity right there, and you might have a generational average given if you bought in heavy at that 138, 140, even if you bought in at like 150, 160, like not a bad average now that the stock's 200. And so we'll see where it goes from there, but that's exciting for Tesla. Raises, LOL, I sold some at 175. You're not alone. A lot of people sold some at 175. A lot of people were scared. A lot of people, and for good reason. I mean, like a lot of people have their net weight. Didn't Warren Redlick sell 20% of his stake at 170 because he thought the vote wouldn't go through for Elon? I mean, a lot, and you can't blame him. You know, people were scared. That's a lot of their net worth. I think for him, all of his money's in Tesla. And so you want to take some chips off the table, but yeah, sometimes it ends up doing what it does. And there you go. We got Tesla here at $200. One more piece of news from Bsoft: Tesla to showcase Optimus Gen 2 and Cybertruck in China later this week. Okay, very interesting. Thank you for that transition, because speaking of Optimus, we have a company that I have a private investment in called Figure that just put out their latest video on the robot working at BMW, which is one of their first contract partners. It's a 1 minute, 30-second video. I'm going to play it now. Let me know what you guys think. I thought it was pretty impressive. I invested at $2 billion. I think this video makes the valuation more than $2 billion in my opinion, but let's see what you guys think. This is the most I've ever seen a humanoid robot do, more than anything Optimus has done, because it's actually in a factory. So let's see what Figure put out today, and maybe this shows what's going to happen with Optimus in the future. It's like legit building the car here, bro. All based on neural networks, and it's going to correct its mistakes in a second as well. You see, that was a mistake, so that's pretty incredible, dude. It fixed the mistake it made. Another mistake it fixed. I had a feeling you guys in the chat would say this, bro. Kelly says it's slow. You guys are saying it's slow. Dude, it's a humanoid robot. It's not going to be like, it's like in the first generation of what these robots can become. And you guys are saying it's slow. I mean, it is kind of slow. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of slow, but still, like, that's pretty cool. And if Optimus can do so, first of all, that's more than what Optimus has done. Okay. And I love Tesla, but I'm just saying that's we have not seen a video from Tesla's Optimus actually putting parts on a car together and correcting its own mistakes. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. If anything, that just shows the market for Optimus and humanoid robots is going to grow dramatically in the next couple of years, which is something I don't even think the street thinks about when it comes to Tesla. I don't even think the street believes Optimus is real. And if Figure is able to do that, Tesla can't be that much far behind. Maybe Tesla's even ahead of them, but they're just not putting up the video yet because they want to keep it in secret, which would, not be the dumbest thing to do. And so maybe that's going to surprise the street, and that ends up being another reason why Tesla is cheap at $209. All right, July 1st, Monday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. 4 p.m. The stock market is now closed. All right, markets closed. Let's see what we got. Someone says they've been on the Tesla battery line, though. Yes, but we have no videos of this. Everyone wants to say Tesla has Optimus in the factory, but there's no videos of them even doing anything. So I get it. But again, that's blindly trusting Elon saying that the robots are there and they're doing stuff. It's like, we don't actually know that, dude. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know if they're doing anything effective. We don't know if they're slower than the video I just showed you. Again, maybe they don't want to put out the video because they want to keep it in secret. That's totally fine. But the point is, no one knows what the robots are doing in Tesla. We just know they're doing something, but we're ultimately going to have to end up seeing, how effective they are. All right, S&P at 545. So we end the day green. We have kept on the momentum with a green start to July, like that has happened in 47 to the last 50 years. So S&P 500, 545 on the day, up 0.22%. Robinhood hit 23, then it fell back down to 22.79. Also, I have some news on their acquisition. They acquired a company called Pluto today. A lot of people think it's just robo-advising. I actually found Pluto's YouTube channel. This thing is going to be a really cool acquisition. So we're going to go through a couple of their videos, and I'm going to show you guys what Pluto is doing and why I think Robinhood ended up buying them. I think there's no way they paid more than like 20, 30 million bucks, dude. I think it was a cheap buy. And then hopefully they're going to incorporate that into the platform. Tesla ends the day up 6%, $209, 210 after hours. Microsoft, 456, $3.39 trillion. S&P 500, 545. AMD down about 2.79% on the day. Piper Sandler did say AMD is their best stock of the second half of the year. So that's one thing. That's at least one bank that was bullish on them. Snowflake ended green, 5.67%. So nice bounce from about 126-ish to 142 on Snowflake. It was probably due for a bounce because it got oversold. Goldman Sachs added them to one of their best stocks of the year for the second half of the year as well. Spotify, 313. Bank of America at $40. They increased their dividend. Occidental, that's down about 0.27% of the day. SoFi ended down 2.27% on the day. I thought that was up in the morning. So apparently that one came down 2%. Chipotle was down 1%. TSM. Oh, some interesting news on Apple and TSM. So Apple put out an order for like a really big order for TSM chips because they're expecting about 90 to 100 million iPhone sales of the iPhone 16. So Apple's expecting big iPhone 16 sales. This is from Apple Insider. The increased order to TSM, which is their chip supplier, they're preparing to sell 90 million and 100 million units of the iPhone 16, which would be a lot of money for Apple. Obviously, it would be very good for TSM as well. So that's one piece of news update in the context of what Apple is. And Apple also had a great day. Apple, almost up 3% on the day. There you go. Apple is up 3% on the day. Chris says, dude is literally investing in our downfall. Thanks, Mitt. Dude, if Figure actually turns out to be $1 trillion company, I can dream, right? I'm allowed to dream. Like, I'm allowed to dream that. Like, dude, I will make so much fucking money if Figure gets to $1 trillion. Like, even if Figure gets to like 200 billion. And by the way, there are some people that have been offered a lot more for their Figure stock from Series B on the private markets that I've seen, like a decent amount more. And so if you assume what people are willing to pay in the secondary markets for the equity round that happened in February, the valuation is already, gone up. The question is now, can they really show a good commercial use case? And I think that video with BMW, that's at least starting to begin the process of a real commercial use case. And if that's the case, Figure is going to make people a lot of money, and robots are going to win and take over the world, which is good because no one wants to do their own dishes, I guess, and their own laundry. Even though I love doing my own laundry, I actually find peace in doing my own laundry. Google, 184.49, up 0.58% of the day. Palantir, great day. I'll be talking about the Bank of America research report in the Daily Palantir episode coming out later today. They were added to Bank of America's top 9 stocks to go long on in Q3. I think that helped them go up 2% of the day, but also probably the macro was just good. So that's why they were up. They touched 25.99 and then they got rejected right before they got to 26. So 25.88 on Palantir, up 2.15% on the day. I think it's probably going to do well amid, as long as it makes it to IPO, you're probably going to print money, but Tesla's ahead. Yeah, see, the interesting thing is I kind of believe Tesla is ahead as well, because like I can't believe their technology would not make them ahead. Tesla right here at 210 after hours on the whole robotic space. But the one advantage that I like about Figure outside of the value, like people are like, oh, why didn't you just buy more Tesla stock? Why did you put money into Figure? Figure's at a $2 billion valuation. Tesla at that time was still 550 billion. So like the idea that Figure goes from 2 billion to even 4 billion and I get a double versus Tesla going from 550 billion to 1 trillion. Like it was just obvious. Like maybe Figure goes bankrupt, sure, but I think the probability of that is low. The odds that they double in valuation, given how exceptional of a company it is, I thought that was more reasonable. So that's ultimately why I picked Figure. But I probably think Tesla's ahead of the technology. But the benefit that Figure has is that they're only focused on robots. And when you're only focused on robots and not cars and energy and all this stuff, you can move really fast, right? And so I think that was one of the benefits that Figure has, and hopefully, that helps them become a lot more successful in the long run. Shem Pasta says peace comes from doing your laundry. Yes, that is correct. and again, I don't care about the commercial use case of robots. I care about the industrial use case. You guys see the sun coming in right now? Oh my God, it's like golden hour, dude, on my face. I care about the industrial use case, and I think enterprises are going to pay a lot for robots, more so than consumers are going to pay for, like doing their dishes or anything like that. And I think that market's going to be very large. Okay, let's talk about Roaring Kitty. So Roaring Kitty bought a bunch of shares in Chewy. Why did he do that? Well, let's discuss why he did that. So I got a response, or for a follower DM'd me a thesis for why Roaring Kitty bought Chewy. And I want to read through it. I think it's a really good thesis. I think it makes a lot of sense. I got a lot of hate in these comments. I got called a clown, all of that stuff from all the GameStop bulls that are upset at this thesis. But I think the GameStop bulls are just upset because it makes a lot of fucking sense. And if it's right and you're in GameStop, I mean, you just gotta think about what's really happening here and think about the logistics of how much money is actually involved, because it doesn't make sense for Roaring Kitty to be long GameStop and Chewy. Okay, so what he says. Roaring Kitty said on his live stream that he was willing to wait and see what GameStop does with the cash, what the turnaround plan is. Later, on June 17th, the shareholder meeting took place. Roaring Kitty made it clear Ryan Cohen made it clear the only plan is to keep cutting costs and trying to make the existing business profitable by expanding into collectibles, which is true. Ryan Cohen didn't really say anything else about what to do with the $4 billion that they raised by dumping 120 million shares on shareholders. He specifically downplayed the idea of an acquisition, making it clear there is no plan or even intention to form a plan such as that. After the meeting on June 17th, Roaring Kitty posted a John McEnroe meme, which is from a moment of him saying, "You've got to be fucking kidding me." Then 90 minutes later, he posts a sad-looking green face from Bruno. Look at the volume on GameStop on June 17th post-meeting. Roaring Kitty led the sell down. That's the argument, and the stock tanked 11% after the meeting. Next, look at the volume on Chewy on June 18th, one day after the shareholder meeting. Big volume, big buys. Roaring Kitty accumulated most of his position here in the low 20s. Then he potentially accumulated more in the following weeks. But what pushed him over the filing requirement was the 17 million share buyback Chewy did last week of their Class A stock, which gave Kitty a more than 5% stake, which is why he was forced to file, because they bought back 17 million shares. To recap, he was disappointed with Cohen, and the meeting he sold afterwards posted a meme 90 minutes later showing he still profited but was not pleased about it. Then he began accumulating Chewy, and that meme about profiting but not being pleased about it, that's the Bruno meme of seeing green but still being sad. So I think he made like $7-8 million, but he was still sad because even though he was in the green, it wasn't the amount of money he wanted to see. Then he began accumulating Chewy, and the 17.5 million shares of Class A from the buyback forced him to have to file it because he owned 5% of the Class A stock. I think that's a hell of a theory. It's a better theory than anything else I've heard from some of these GameStop bulls. I mean, dude, if you go through some of these comments, these people, they are ruthless, thinking their argument is he bought Chewy so he could make money so he could buy more GameStop, without even thinking, how do you get $180 million? Let's say his average is $20, 9 million shares. 9 times 20 is 180. You have $180 million when you have 9 million shares. There's no way he got that out of nowhere unless he has an extra 200 million lying around, which if he does, God bless him. But I don't think that's the case. So if it comes out, here's my question to you guys. If it comes out that Kitty sold his GameStop, I mean, dude, I think shareholder, there's going to be a reckoning, and I think there's going to be some more lawsuits put against him because I think a lot of people are going to be pretty upset. Remember, GameStop is a cult. It's a very ruthless cult, and this cult is not happy when anyone talks anything bad about GameStop. And so I didn't even say this was a theory. I just said, hey, I think this is a theory of what's going on. And everyone in the comments are just like, blah, 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 blah. You're a clown. You don't get it. And it's like, I don't think any of them are looking at the numbers. And the numbers imply that this is correct. Now, here's another thing that's really interesting about this. Citadel was the company that was short GameStop back in 2021. Roaring Kitty squeezed them. Ken Griffin, right? Ken Griffin is not a fan of Keith Gill, Roaring Kitty, the whole GameStop movement. Now, Citadel has a huge bullish position of calls on Chewy. If you look at the Fintel, Citadel has about $72 million worth of calls as of Q1 on Chewy. Keith Gill is now basically not working with, but you know what I mean? They're both bullish on the same stock. And 3 years ago, they were going against each other, and Keith Gill was squeezing Ken Griffin out of his short position on GameStop. I mean, it feels like we need Dumb Money Part 2. It feels like we need a new movie, especially if Chewy goes to the moon and Keith makes a crap ton of money off of it. Because now it's not just going to be Keith. Now it's going to be Citadel. And so the exciting part here is I kind of think Citadel is happy that Keith Gill is in the stock and we'll see when they put out their next 13D if they sold any of it. But if the stock explodes to like $50 or something, which would probably be overvalued, I think I don't think Ken Griffin would be mad. I think they would probably sell at $50 and they would, thank Roaring Kitty for the pump. But I think Roaring Kitty might sell as well. I don't think he's going to go long on Chewy for the next 10 years. It was down 6% today. It was up 15% in the pre-markets. But this is a very interesting saga, dude. Very interesting story in terms of how this is playing out. John says GameStop wasn't doing anything after raising all the money, so it's their fault. I agree. I mean, I said this publicly on the channel. When you raise $4 billion and you have no plan for that $4 billion, yeah, I mean, like, I think people are going to get really upset. And maybe Kitty was just upset, dude. Maybe he was upset. Bsoft says the entire GameStop cult will short Chewy and make it their mission to crash Chewy. I guess that's possible if they're really upset at it. But I think the core problem is like they all trust it. I mean, dude, I know some people that sold a lot of good stocks, including, Palantir, to buy GameStop. And when I saw that, I was just like, wow, I didn't expect that to be the move. But people really got into this story, bro. This was the Bruno meme. You see the sad face with the green? One could argue that he was green on his GameStop position, but he was sad because although he took profits in the green, he didn't really see what he wanted to see from the company. And maybe, look, 10 days after this, he posts the Chewy meme. And it seems like he was probably accumulating, 10 days ago around that June 20th time. And now he's in Chewy. And it's so weird because Chewy is Ryan Cohen's old company that he founded in 2011. So a lot of people are saying, well, why would he sell GameStop, a Ryan Cohen company, to buy another Ryan Cohen company if he doesn't like Ryan Cohen for not effectively doing anything with the cash that GameStop raised from the 4 billion share dilution? It's a good question. I have no answer to that, but it is very confusing for how this is playing out. Very, very confusing for how this is playing out, but it is playing out in this way. I'm just happy he's not buying Palantir, dude. I'm so happy he didn't get into Palantir. Like, leave Palantir alone. Let us do what we need to do. Let it go up naturally. Let it take its time. Let it actually prove results. I would hate for Palantir to become like a meme stock because it just wouldn't be the way you want to see it continue to grow. And so I'm happy that he's staying in that world. But it is really weird why he picked Chewy. Also on the filing, he said, I'm not a cat. He had to like disclose that he's not a cat on the file. It was so weird, dude. It's just like, it's just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. But that's what we had. Also, okay, a couple of other things. Let me pull this up right here. Where is this? Okay, so a few things that I wanted to show. Where's my StreamYard? My StreamYard disappeared. Okay, here it is. It's right here. I think we can do the Robinhood story, and then we can do the other one I wanted to show. Rob says maybe he is doing this to laugh in the face of Cohen. Maybe he's upset at Cohen and he's doing this for that. I just think the millions of GameStop shareholders. I think if he's actually out of the stock, which I'm kind of convinced he's out of the stock. Maybe I'm wrong, but I am convinced that there's no way he could get the money without selling GameStop. There's millions of GameStop shareholders that have to feel like shit right now, dude. It's like, talk about being left at the altar, bro. Like that's just like, the guy did a whole live stream. Now, remember, in the live stream, he kept saying, I reserve the right to change my opinion. He kept saying that almost as if like there was a gun to his head, right? He kept saying that. And it kind of felt weird. It's like, why is he saying that? And then maybe because he was kind of hesitant. Maybe because he was like, look, I know I'm long, guys, but I'm long if I like what the company does. And if I don't like what they do, I'm out. And maybe it was finally time for him to get out once he saw that this company was not going to be the company that he thought it would be. And so that's what ended up happening. But that's one theory that we had right there in the context of GameStop. Okay, so let's pull up this. So Robinhood did an acquisition today. I want to show you guys the company that they actually acquired. The company they acquired is called Pluto. And this is a really, really interesting company. Here's a 2-minute video on what Pluto is. You guys have probably never seen this video before because most people probably didn't know about this company. But this is an AI investing co-pilot. Robinhood bought them today. Here's the actual video of the product. And I have some thoughts on what they can do to integrate the product into their app.
Welcome to Plato. Reach new heights with your own AI investing co-pilot, Plato. You can take to the skies with an arsenal of tools for financial research, market analysis, and automated trading. Let's talk to Plato and find out what's happening in the markets.
Hello there. I'm Plato.
Hey, Plato. What's the big market news this week?
I am reading news stories from today. First, there's an overheated market and lingering inflation warnings from Ford Asset Management. At the same time, the Federal Reserve is expected to pause rate hikes at their June meeting, but future outlook commentary will be crucial. The S&P 500 has entered a bull market, but the rally is driven by overvalued stocks, raising concerns. And let me know if you need any further insights.
That's really interesting, and maybe we can build a strategy to take advantage of this situation. Can we buy some of the top stocks and SPY if they beat earnings?
Great idea. I am creating a strategy called Earnings Beat Bonanza that buys 10% of the top stocks in the S&P 500 if they beat earnings estimates. Your automation is ready to review, edit, and activate. Let me know.
This is not just robo-advising, dude. This is like AI investing on steroids. And I think when you incorporate this, I know the UI is kind of funky here. It doesn't look the best. When you incorporate this tech into Robinhood's UI and they make it something like a real product offering for $5 a month with gold, I think this thing gets exciting.
If you have any questions.
I do have a few more questions. Can we test this strategy during the first half of 2021?
Yes, I'm running your test now. I am generating the data and analyzing the results. I've tested your strategy from January to June 2021. Your strategy underperforms the SPY benchmark by 13.21%. And
that's cool, dude. Come up with a strategy and then ask AI, hey, would this have worked 4 years ago, 5 years ago in the 1980s? And then it just does an analysis. It's like, actually, this thing would have sucked a couple years ago, but maybe it'll work in the next. Like, this is really interesting stuff.
Has a high cash utilization issue. It seems this strategy could use some fine-tuning to improve its performance and cash utilization. Let me know if you'd like me to make any adjustments or explore alternative strategies.
Thank you, Plato. Let's explore the current state of these companies' earnings. Can you show me a bar chart of their total revenue?
I am generating the data and analyzing charts. Voila! I've conjured up a bar chart showcasing the total revenue for 2023 quarter one. Let me know if you need any further insights.
Thank you, Plato. How else can you help me?
As your AI investing co-pilot, I'm here to help you unlock your financial potential. I can analyze investing data, research and screen for stocks, and even create charts, graphs, and automations using real-time data. Remember, I'm here to assist you, but I cannot give financial advice. If you need help with anything, just let me know.
With endless ways to research, analyze the markets, and even trade directly from your account with as little as $1, join our community today to learn more about Pluto. And
it's really interesting that Robinhood chose to buy these guys, because you would think Robinhood can kind of build this themselves, but instead they went the acquisition route. And what's really interesting is, I was listening to an interview on Vlad a couple weeks ago. They don't like buying companies at all. Like, they really like building. He said if we had a choice of build something or buy, we would rather build, because they have a product first culture. M&A doesn't always go well, but they bought X1 in the summer for $100 million last summer. Great acquisition. They brought Bitstamps for $200 million. We'll see how that turns out, but it seems pretty cheap. And now I think they snatched these guys up for maybe 20, 30 million bucks and just said, hey, you guys have the tech. Let's incorporate it into the Robinhood ecosystem and let's end up making it into a really special product. So where do I think this goes? I think if they create a real financial LLM, there are some financial LLMs that are out there. Bloomberg was rumored to be working on one with ChatGPT a couple of months ago. It never came out because Bloomberg is the Bloomberg terminal is old. It's not really that innovative. Their media company, it cares more about clickbait headlines than like coming out with really interesting products. So I don't think Bloomberg is as exciting of a tech company to be able to come out with something like Bloomberg GPT, where you could, type in something and automatically get results. But I think Robinhood is primed to disrupt that. So if they're acquiring the technology and then they build the distribution on top of it, and then they make a fully integrated financial LLM where I can type in, hey, I want a growth stock investing strategy with 10% of value stocks. I don't want any of the companies to be over a $500 billion market cap. I want the PEs of every company to be 25 or below. Give me a list of 30 names and then take out, 10 of the names that don't have a dividend or something. Like, there's so many different ways you can just throw it into there. And maybe it helps people better figure out how to invest. It's way better than robo-advising. It's like you having control over the way the system talks to you about certain stocks. And then for $5 a month, I think people that aren't Robinhood users would be excited to become a Robinhood user, because for $5 a month, if I get access to this integrated suite of AI products, which don't exist on SoFi or Fidelity or Schwab or anything like that, maybe that becomes very exciting. So seems like that could be one of the good things for Robinhood. Don says the voice sucked, but that stuff can be fixed easily. Yes, the voice. Again, this is a small startup. Like, I don't even think this startup is like, making a ton of money. I think they just probably got Robinhood to, their YouTube channel is 2,000 subscribers. They've been around for a couple of years. The last time they posted a video was 7 months ago. So maybe Robinhood scouted them probably a year ago and just like watched them and like really looked at their tech, and they were like, all right, it's time to get the next leg of growth. And then they ended up buying them. So I think that's what ended up happening, but exciting stuff for Robinhood. I think it's going to be, I don't think Vlad's stopping, dude. Margin rates going down, $1 billion buyback, Bitstamps acquisition. Seems like they are ready to take more advantage of this moment. Enphase fell another 2% today. Wow. Where's Nike? Did Nike fall? Nike was up 2%. Okay. So Nike rebounded a little bit. Walgreens, I think, fell as well. Yeah. Wow. Walgreens fell 4%. Holy crap. 4%, dude. Goodness. Walgreens and Starbucks just not having Walgreens, Starbucks, and Enphase not having the best day. Starbucks was down as well, 1%. What would you do if you got offered a job at Robinhood, but you can't do YouTube about stocks anymore? I just wouldn't take the job. Dude, I got offered some brand deal like 20 minutes ago. Some lady from some financial company. It's hard to dude, none of this stuff is exciting, dude. Like, none of this stuff. Like, I like doing what I'm doing right here, and I want to take this and keep building on the next level. So having to stop this to promote some brand or something, it's just not fun. It's not interesting. So yeah, I wouldn't take it. Same thing for Palantir. Someone asked me that earlier today as well. Would you take a job at Palantir? The answer is no, because then I can't talk about Palantir or Robinhood. I need to have my independence to talk. I need my free speech. And when you're part of a company, you usually can't say anything, especially about the company. So that's why I never want to actually work there. No, what was I going to show? There was a couple of things. Oh, this question right here. Would you trust your money with a small startup AI? So I think the reason Vlad also started that LLM company, remember that harmonics.ai or some shit that he started like 2 weeks ago? I think he started that because that is some of the research that's building Robinhood's AI moat. And so I think they're starting to do a ton of more sophisticated mathematical research into how LLMs can become more sophisticated. Because if you have LLMs in combination with so many numbers, what is the stock market? It's just like trillions and trillions of numbers. You can't have LLMs that are like, summarizing an article for you. You need very, very high level LLMs. And I think that's actually why he started that Harmonics AI startup, because he knew that Robinhood eventually would need an LLM that's much more tailored towards not just language, but empirical data. And so maybe that integration actually helps them build out a really sophisticated LLM for the platform. And so we'll see. Amit would take a job at Grindr. Oh man, I would take a job. Where's Grindr right now? Grindr is at 1186. Okay, so I did do some DD over the weekend on Grindr. I told you guys last week I was looking at Grindr and I was trying to see if there's anything exciting there. The one thing I hate about Grindr so much is that they're worth $2 billion at a market cap, which kind of seems like relatively cheap just in terms of, okay, it's not like a really big company and they have 13 million users, all that stuff. But Match Group, which has hundreds of millions of users, is worth 7.7 billion. I can't understand how Grindr is worth almost 30% of Match Group, and Match Group owns Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, all those companies. And so that's the part I don't like. That's the part I really don't like about Grindr, dude. I was going through their presentation and all this stuff, and some of the metrics were just looking amazing. If this was $8, I think this would be exciting. I don't like that it's up 40%. I mean, to initiate a position while it's up 40%, looking at the valuation, it just doesn't make sense for it to be. It's kind of like Celsius and Monster. Like Celsius can't be almost half of Monster's market cap with not any of the growth Monster has. Match has a lot more revenue and a lot more users than Grindr. So I think until Grindr gets back down to $9, it's not going to be that exciting. Grindr makes more money than those on Match. That's correct because the users are more niche and focused. I just don't know if it deserves that much of a premium compared to Match. Also, the insiders have been selling a decent amount. And so that also, it's at a price of sales of 7. Match is at a price of sales of 2. So granted, this could be a fallacy because maybe Grindr is so unique and differentiated, it deserves the premium. I don't know if that's the case yet. I've got to do more research, but that's the one part where I have a lot of hesitations. I just hate that valuation. They also have $300 million in debt, and I'm so confused why they have so much debt. So that right now is keeping me away from the market cap. Bumble is only $1.25 billion market cap. Yeah, and Bumble, the thing about Bumble is they have like 200 million users. Grindr does not have, or Bumble does $200 million of revenue, about $1 billion a year, and they have like 30 million users. Grindr has 13 million, and they do like $200 million of revenue for the whole year, or like 300 million. So Bumble actually does have better metrics. The problem is, I don't think anyone likes this whole girls message first type of strategy. Bumble down 5% today. And I think it's kind of losing its appeal. This whole like, oh, the girl message first, and like that creates the engagement. It's like, I don't know, dude. I think people kind of are getting tired of that. And Bumble CEO left the other day, and she was a founder. And whenever a founder leaves, I feel like the company tends to go down the drain. So yeah, not that excited about Bumble or Grindr yet. If Grindr gets back down to $8, then it gets a little bit more exciting. I don't use the product. Goodness. Only invest in what you use. But I was interested, dude. The thing that got me interested was that the dude was like, we're getting all these users and we don't do any marketing. And I'm like, well, if you don't do any marketing, that means there's something about the product that's uniquely differentiated. And it made me feel like from a product first perspective, there was something interesting there. And there was something interesting. It already happened. It ran up fucking 45%. So like the interesting thing happened, and now it's one of those things where I don't want to buy at all-time highs. Okay, let's take a look at this clip right here. This is an argument for why Trump would be good for software companies. Let's take a listen to what this is and why a Trump term might be good for tech stocks.
Week's debate and today's Supreme Court ruling, Silicon Valley is thinking more than ever about what another Trump presidency would mean for the tech industry. Let's get to Deirdre Bosa to break that down for today's Tech Check. Deirdre?
Hey, Kelly, call it a Trump tech basket. Names that would benefit from a lighter touch when it comes to M&A intervention, a broader deregulatory agenda, and likely more China tariffs. A friendlier deal environment, that can mean more strategic M&A from the mega caps that are sitting on amounts of cash, but stifled or at least wary of doing deals under the current regulatory regime of Lina Khan and Jonathan Cantor in the Biden administration. That could be bullish for the small and mid-cap software names that have struggled this year under the Gen AI platform shift that seems to be benefiting the large incumbents and Gen AI native startups and leaving a lot of them behind. There's also the gig economy. That's Uber, DoorDash, Lyft, Instacart. They would likely get some relief too from a lighter touch. President Biden's Department of Labor has issued rules challenging the way that gig companies treat their workers as independent contractors, which is really important for their business models. A Trump administration could move away from that gig battle. American e-commerce as well. Trump's tough stance on China and more tariffs, that could hobble Temu and Shein. Those are two of the fastest growing e-commerce apps here in America, and benefit Amazon, Etsy, Wayfair, and those dollar stores in particular. Social media, more of a wild card. TikTok ban, an obvious target in a Trump administration, but also some American names like Meta, Google, Snap. Remember, they are favorite punching bags of the former president, and he is now majority shareholder of his own social media competitor, DJT. There's still a lot of supporters here, Kelly, but ever since the debate performance last week, more and more have been trying to think about and face what another Trump term would mean for tech.
Right. And again, the valuations speak for themselves. Under the Biden administration, the last 4 years, big tech has become the biggest it's ever been.
Exactly. And a lot of folks would attribute that to sort of these AI underpinnings, the Gen AI shift. When I talk about how the incumbents have benefited, that's really the magnificent 7 or 6, if you want to leave out Tesla. Whereas it's really like the small.
How dare they say that when Tesla's up 7% on the day? That's crazy.
Software names and mid-cap software names that are supposed to have benefited from this as well, be the next level, taking part in the AI shift that really haven't so far. So a lot of folks think that maybe the incumbents could do some strategic M&A activity, which just isn't going to happen in the Biden administration, given how tough the regulators are.
It does.
Now, one thing about Trump, and while I share that, here's a picture of Shaq with the Hawk Tua girl. He found her in Nashville yesterday. That's incredible, dude. She's gonna turn into a. She just did a podcast recently. I haven't listened to it yet, but this is she's just gonna be literally. She's gonna be a superstar, dude. One thing about Trump today is the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 ruling that it is that a presidential candidate has absolute immunity from being prosecuted against the law. Now, that's a summary of the ruling. I'm still reading the article on the Wall Street Journal and going a little bit more in depth about what happened. But the first sentence, the Supreme Court ruled Monday that former U.S. presidents retain significant immunity, so not absolute immunity, significant immunity from prosecution for acts taken while in office, a decision that could hamper efforts to prosecute DJT for his alleged attempt to subvert the 2020 election. So Trump already got found guilty on the whole porn star thing. The second case is the whole subverting of the 2020 election, the whole insurrection thingy that he's under fire for. This ruling today kind of makes it really hard for him to be prosecuted because, I mean, this ruling is kind of an addendum, DJT up 1% today, on like, if you can prosecute presidents in the way that he wanted to be prosecuted for the January, or he was going to be prosecuted for the January 2021 attack. I think he still will be prosecuted, but not to the extent that the prosecutors thought they would be able to make a legal rationale against him for. And so this ruling, although it would have helped if it was unanimous, it was 6-3. It's, the liberals went one way, the conservatives went the other way. And that might make it very, very difficult, if anything, to bring this case before the election or before Inauguration Day. So it looks like after the election, this case is going to go to trial, if it does go to trial. And if it does, Trump's going to be put into trial as the president. If I was Trump, I mean, I think he just pardons himself, dude. And that would be kind of crazy if he pardons himself. I think he would use up a lot of political capital if he pardons himself. But at the end of the day, if his supporters who voted for him believe that the reason he was getting prosecuted was because of some unjust, corrupt system, then I don't think a lot of people would care if he pardons himself. There's going to be a segment of the population that believes, oh my God, he's taking advantage of so much power. You can't pardon yourself with the president, yada, yada, yada. I think the other part of the population, especially if he wins in a landslide, will be like, well, actually, the reason he was prosecuted was corrupt. So he's just reversing something that's corrupt. So we don't care. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. This is going to probably take place in February, March of 2025. But that's what the Supreme Court ruled today in the context of Trump. And so we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Drew says, could you say that the courts are not political? Now, the courts have always been political. I mean, Trump and Biden openly admit that Trump openly admits that he admitted conservative Supreme Court justices, and Biden openly admits that Trump appointed conservative Supreme Court justices. And a couple of years, I think 8 years ago, you were never supposed to say a Supreme Court justice was liberal or conservative, but now everyone just openly acknowledges if Neil Gorsuch or what's the other guy? Amy, what was her name? I forgot the lady that got selected. If they're conservative or not. Like now it's just kind of, yeah, they are conservative and it is what it is. And if a Democrat wins, if Biden wins and someone retires, he'll select someone who's more liberal. Ketanji Jackson as well. She definitely leans on the more liberal side. She's not as conservative. So the courts are definitely political. Amy Barrett. Yes, Amy Barrett. I was about to say Amy Klobuchar, dude. She is definitely not on the Supreme Court. But yeah, so if the courts are political, then it's a question of just who has the power. You know what was so funny? Did you guys see this clip, dude? So Joe Lonsdale, who is a co-founder of Palantir. By the way, I got to speak to someone today who was one of the head assistants for Peter Thiel at Founders Fund back in basically for the past 10 years. And then they moved on, they got a new job. But I was in a really interesting meeting today where I got to meet that person. So it was pretty cool. But they used to work at Founders Fund and now they work somewhere else. Joe Lonsdale, who is the co-founder of Palantir, he was asked on CNBC last week, what does he feel about the Supreme Court justices being conservative? And dude, it was the funniest thing ever what he said. I'm going to see if I can find the tweet because Andrew Ross Sorkin was trying to get him to admit it's bad if we have conservative justices. And here it is. And he reversed it. And it was just hilarious, dude. And you can agree or disagree with him, but this is what he said. All right. So here was his thoughts on Supreme Court.
Is You heard President Biden say last week that he thinks actually there could be as many as 2 judges up for grabs on the Supreme Court, whoever becomes the president for the next 4 years. If Trump were to win and put 2 new judges in place, would you be happy as an American? And I'm actually very curious about this because if
As
you
an American?
No, as an American
how about
citizen,
as a human being, use that line again. As a human being, don't you think that would be a bad thing?
To the extent that you have to represent, you'd like to think that you'd want a Supreme Court, I would imagine, that represents, that is somewhat representative of the country, How would you feel, Joe, if there were 2 more conservative judges on the Supreme Court? So you would actually get close to the not just the majority, which you're already in, but the entirety of it, obviously for potentially a generation or more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would protect our country for a generation to have originalist judges who believe in the Constitution, Andrew. They just ruled 9-0 to protect the abortion drugs. These people are not activists. They're clearly trying to interpret the Constitution. And I think that makes us very safe. They're going to stop the unrealized taxes. They would destroy the innovation sector. And they're going to stop a lot of this nonsense. I mean, Jackson, who's the only person Biden put on, was the only one to very clearly say she wants a wealth tax. You do a wealth tax, you destroy our sector. So I think in terms of protecting the United States of America, we need originalist judges. And that would be an amazing thing for
a couple more originalists.
That would be great.
That's great.
Dude, that was kind of funny. Because he was just like, actually, let's get as many conservatives on the Supreme Court as we want because they're going to protect the Constitution. I mean, that's the argument for conservative. I don't even want to say conservative, but more originalist people on the Supreme Court is that they look at the Constitution, they read the actual text of the Constitution, and that's how they interpret it through a more originalist lens. And then you have the more progressive, activist kind of unique types of people. I mean, I guess if you want to call them liberal, whatever, that try to see how do you interpret the documents, the Constitution, in a way that is adaptive to the status quo, right? Like the 1700s is not the 2000s. There's a whole different era, and so maybe those laws don't necessarily apply. The originalists feel that if you take away the merits of the philosophical principles like freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, etc., then you destroy the essence of America. So, either take is based on your political opinion. But Joe Lonsdale just unequivocally was like, I don't care. Like, let Trump import as many justices on the panel that are originalists because that'll protect our Constitution. And for some arguments, he's correct. Like if the Supreme Court was okay with a wealth tax, which I don't think they ever would be, but if they were, that would be very bad for American innovation. And then there's other parts where, like, sometimes the Supreme Court, I feel, is a little too rigid because those laws the Constitution was created a long time ago, and you have to be a little bit more interpretive of it. So it goes both ways, but obviously people like him would rather have it be set in stone versus always able to be interpreted. And so that was his take on it. Shout out to June in the chat. It is her birthday today. Happy birthday to June. June, what are you doing for your birthday? Let us know in the chat. Are you going and getting any steak? Because if you're getting any steak, I've got to recommend a medium well steak. From wherever you get it from, just make sure it's medium well. If you've never had medium well, I think you'll enjoy it. And the chat will say get medium rare. Don't be brainwashed. I was brainwashed for 20 years to get medium rare, and I changed. I made sure to understand what like true steak should be, and I came to the conclusion it's medium rare. It's not medium well. Or sorry, no, it's medium well, not medium well, not medium rare, not me. Sometimes the truth comes out first. Who knows? Okay. The Kitty lawsuit has been dismissed, by the way. We're getting some breaking news right here. The Kitty lawsuit has been dismissed. The suit against him, gone. Roaring Kitty GameStop case dismissed. So someone help me here. When a case gets dismissed, is that because the judge doesn't care about it? Is the judge just like, hey, this is like stupid? Yeah, it has to be, right? When a case gets dismissed, the judge looks at it and they're probably like, yeah, this is stupid. We're not even going to waste our time on this. That's what happened. Why couldn't that happen with the Tesla thing, dude? Why couldn't the Delaware judge be like, oh, this guy has 9 shares. Let's like dismiss this case. Because if that's what's happened here, then that could have easily happened at Tesla. Amit saying no, this like an adult doesn't already have a preference for their steak. I'm just saying, even if you like medium rare, medium well is not the worst thing in the world. I'm at a cafe beachside in Hollywood Beach, feature Fort Lauderdale, about ready to swim. All right, June. That's a great day to enjoy your birthday. I'm just saying, if you like steak, medium well is the way to do it. What about the Amit lawsuit of medium well versus actual medium? Dude, you guys need to try medium well. I don't know why everyone's so against it. Like, go to a steakhouse, get medium well, and then tell me how good it is. It's going to be crunchy. There's not going to be any hemoglobin or whatever the fuck fancy name you want to say for blood. At the end of the day, it's fucking blood. There won't be any blood. And, you'll actually be able to enjoy your meat without having to worry about basically eating a raw cow and shit. Okay, let's go to this clip on where the markets are expected to go over the next month, and then I want to show a couple more things, and then we'll be out of here. A real man does medium, dude. You're crazy. You guys are crazy.
14% year to date, or are the prevailing trends the ones to keep playing? Let's ask Dan Greenhouse, chief strategist at Solus Alternative Asset Management. Dan, good to see you here.
Thank you, sir.
So, the probabilities say you got a strong first half. You have this nice upward trend in the market. Seasonally, things look okay. You usually have upside follow through. But, the complications come in the details. So how are you thinking about whether the first half pulled forward gains or really just reflect a continuing dynamic here?
No, I think continuing is probably the right way to put it. Obviously, this is an extending of the rally that began late last year. And to the point of the question that we posed at the outset, I don't know why anything is going to be different. Now, mind you, I came into the year arguing for a broadening out of the rally, which has not happened. As we know, obviously, the market concentration, at least from a contribution standpoint, has been quite narrow. Although there are other themes that have played out. You've seen this in the AI story, which has caught fire, so to speak, not the chips, but the data center build out and the power side of things has really caught fire. But it's still a largely concentrated market. But in terms of what turns it, I think the one thing that I've been talking about, and I think remains true, is if you start to see rates come down over the next 6 or 9 months, is that sort of the contributing factor to a broadening out of the story? Or is the AI, I don't know what the right way to put it, or is the AI story, will just be simple, just too powerful for everything else?
Sure. And I guess, there's no kind of law of nature that says it has to be one or the other. But recently, it really has been almost one or the other on a day-to-day basis. I think we're working on the 9th straight trading session today where the S&P won't move 0.5%.
Yeah, it's been quite a fun time.
And yet you have, the majority of stocks are lower today. You have this really static index, and then you have, whatever the market has to do below the surface to keep it that way. I guess the other thing I've been wondering about is in March of this year, we really did see a broadening out. And at the end of the first quarter, you were able to say we made a record high. Historically, strong first quarters mean strong rest of the year, all the things I just said about the strong first half. And yet April, you got a lot of downside chop. You actually had to go through what qualified as a pullback this year, 5 or 6%. And it was with yields going up.
Yeah.
So, what's your sort of diagnosis of the case in terms of why, after a pretty good PCE inflation number Friday and a lot of downside on the economic surprise index, we're sitting here with yields high?
And listen, I'm in the digestion camp in the sense that we had a real strong rally, 15% for the headline index, 4 or 5% for the equal weight to start the year. I wouldn't be surprised if we tread water for much of this month into the Fed meeting where you get some clarity on how they're thinking about things. To your point about the PCE, you have had a softening of the economic data, which everyone's quite well aware. Some of the jobs numbers have at least returned to normal, if not started to worsen, like jobless claims. The ISM today, construction spending today, were not booming. And so the economic data has come in at the same time that the inflation rate has moderated. And again, as we saw on Friday, the Fed's preferred measure of inflation is about 2.5% year over year, give or take. That's pretty good for government work. Yeah. And so at the end of this month, they're going to provide some clarity on how they're thinking about things in that environment. And from an investor standpoint, that's going to be pretty important, obviously, in determining when they cut rates. And if that point I alluded to earlier about a broadening out comes to pass. I will say about rates backing up here, the proximate cause to which everyone's attributing this is the idea that apparently President Trump is now a greater probability of winning, and he's going to be more fiscally irresponsible. Listen, my one pushback on this is like the supply story is so onerously bad for the next couple of years and going to be worse over the next 10 years. At a baseline, you're going to accumulate somewhere around $22 trillion of additional debt. That's probably going to be closer to 27 or 28 trillion. I don't know that one man or one woman coming into the presidency is going to do much, much worse than that, although I guess we're going to find out.
Well, that is kind of tough, right? I mean, he is right. In the next 20 years, we are going as a country in the United States, which basically means the entire world, because the United States economy dictates the global economy. We're going to be accumulating $25 trillion in debt. We're accumulating $3 trillion a year. Every 100 days, we get another trillion. It's just insanity. And I don't know if Biden's going to be able to overhaul the spending apparatus in the United States. Biden definitely probably is not going to. I don't think any president can. So if that's the case, buy Bitcoin. Like, what's the solution? Either we just never care about our debt and, we just keep printing money and it is what it is. Or maybe the world decides to pivot into a different currency. I don't know. But yeah, I think the spending argument, if the Bears have an argument like, oh, Trump's going to get in, he's going to start spending. It's like, dude, anyone's going to start spending. I don't think that one's going to necessarily solve the overall problem we have. Chris says government needs to shrink. I agree. I mean, the only way you stop spending is if you stop having all these programs, but it doesn't seem like that's going to stop anytime soon. Guys, I saw a couple of videos yesterday from San Francisco, and they had their Pride Parade. And I mean, you guys can go look at these videos yourself, but I am all for being gay, as you guys know in the chat, as you guys are very supportive of my speaking about gayness in a variety of ways. But dude, there were kids at this parade. And these adults were naked. And it was just like, I'm watching these videos and I'm like I see a little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, like couldn't be older than 6-year-old girl just walking through the street. And men had their their stuff out, and it was just, and not just men, it was women too. It was just, and I'm like, that is one of the reasons I think it's going to be hard for Gavin Newsom to replace Biden, because if he replaces Biden, he's going to have to win people in the Midwest, and I don't think there's going to be some people in the Midwest that are going to be voting for someone who allows that to happen in his city. Let me show you one video. This is not going to be explicit at all. The video itself is not explicit, but it's a reporter talking to the police in San Francisco, and he just asked them a question. And this was the first video I saw. Then I went down the rabbit hole last night because I was like, "There's no way this could be real," but it was real. And so stuff like this again is why it's getting tough, just in general, for the broader government apparatus to be trusted by the government or by the people. All right, here's the video. It's 45 seconds.
Hey guys, I'm a news reporter. Okay. So obviously there's a lot of nudity around here, men, women, transsexual stuff going on, and there's kids, wandering around the event. I'm not sure on San Francisco's laws or California's laws. Is it legal for nudity to be presented in front of kids?
Nudity is legal, yeah, within certain boundaries.
What are the boundaries? Do you know?
Yeah, anything coupled with a lewd act or anything being done for sexual gratification that involves other people.
Okay, but this event wouldn't be considered for sexual gratification.
No, if they're walking around and it's out, that's right. That'd be different than if they're masturbating.
Okay,
or if
dude, when she said that, I was just like, what?
They're forcing, like flashing people, right? Like trying to get their attention, flashing. But no,
even with kids, it's fine to be nude as long as there's no masturbation or anything like that. Yeah. Okay. One question for you guys.
I don't know, dude. I mean, look, if you're an adult, you can consent to be on a nude beach and all that stuff. Like, I have no idea. That's fine, right? Like, that's adults doing adult consenting things. But the fact that the laws don't say anything about kids walking around there, I never bought into the whole San Francisco's kind of going crazy. That was the first video I saw last night where I was like, oh shit, there's a reason why, like, people don't like California, and there's a reason why people are leaving California. Like, I could not imagine, if I'm asking myself as like a 26-year-old guy, if I'm 35 and I have 2 kids, 2 little girls, and we're walking down the street and they have to see someone's junk being out in the open in the name of pride. I would be like, well, hold on, dude. Like, this is like, at least tell us not to walk down that street. Like, let's just not do that. Like, let us know. But the fact that it's normal, I don't know, dude. That's not. I don't know if I'm just on an island saying that's weird, but I think a lot of people are agreeing that's not a good thing. Yeah, they had this like fetish section where people were performing oral sex and peeing on each other. It was rough, dude. It was like there's a lot of stuff there, and kids were allowed to walk through that freely. Kids were allowed to walk through. Like, I'll put the Twitter account, and you guys can go through the rabbit hole because I'm not going to play it. But this is the journalist. Shout out to this guy. He's like really going deep into this stuff. And if you want to look at some of the reporting he did, I mean, it's intense, dude. It's very intense. So, yeah, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, there are some parts of the country that are just not getting the respect from other parts of the country. Like people in fucking, I don't know, Wisconsin are seeing this shit, and they're just like, there's no way they could vote for someone like Gavin Newsom if he were to replace Biden. Now, Biden can relate to the people in Wisconsin, which is why I think the Democrats still want him to be the candidate, but he can't talk. And so then the question is like, who replaces him? And the person that replaces him has to be able to get people who want to vote for the Democrats, but don't want to vote for that stuff that I just showed you on their side. And that type of candidate, I don't know who's out there. I would say RFK is the best one. I would say Robert F. Kennedy is the best one. The problem is Robert F. Kennedy is so anti-establishment, and he did say he would run as a Democrat. He said he would run. Bitcoin right here is 63,000. But the Democrats isolated him and shunned him away, and they don't want him to run. And I think the CIA is afraid that RFK would expose everything about what happened with his father if he got elected, because there's a lot of files that are out there about the whole JFK incident. But it's tough, dude. It's gonna be really tough to see how this plays out. Oh boy, there you go. So that's what you got there. And again, you guys know I don't give a shit if anyone's gay. Like I obviously don't care if anyone's gay. It's just, dude, when you bring the kids into it, it's like I feel like we don't need to corrupt innocent kids that young, dude. Let them, like, I remember what it was like when I was a kid, dude. I didn't get introduced to any of this stuff until I was like in middle school, realistic, like it took a while before like sex and all this stuff started popping up. But I got to be a kid. I got to enjoy being a kid. I had fucking Legos and shit and like action figures, and someone called them dolls, but I called them wrestlers. And I don't know. I think that's important. Now, my kids, they're going to be not having any action figures or any dolls. They're going to learn about PE ratios. They're going to learn about market caps. They're going to be learning about price to sales. They're going to be looking at how to read a Fibonacci retracement. They're going to be. That's what my kids are going to do. My kids are going to have no childhood. They're going to be. They're going to hate the stock market, dude. I'm going to push it too hard, and they're going to be like, Dad, we fucking hate the stock market. We don't care about this shit. It's going to be too much for them. But in general, no, kids, I think kids got to be kids. Kids got to be kids. They're going to learn about Palantir, correct? I mean, they're going to have so many fucking Palantir shares. So they're going to have to, it's all going to be passed down to them. Oh, boy. Will you tell them you are gay? Oh, my God. That's so funny, dude. That's so funny. Dude, no, dude. I have some pictures like with my previous girlfriends. I look like a rock star in those pictures, dude. I don't want to show them because I don't want to hurt the privacy of those girls. But my kids, when they see the pictures of me and like my girlfriends from college and high school, I'm gonna look like a fucking OG, dude. They're gonna be like, damn, Dad got that girl? Because punched a little bit above my weight is all I'm gonna say. And sometimes I landed a good punch. No matter how many jokes you want to make, I landed a good fucking punch. And I think my kids are gonna be fucking impressed, dude. I think my kids are gonna be impressed. Okay, two other things. And how can they win the spelling bee with a mid as a dad? There's no way they're gonna win a spelling bee, dude. They're gonna lose in the first fucking round. They're gonna be like, spell like banana. I can't spell. How do you spell B-A-N-N? Wait, B-A-N-N. Dude, I can't spell banana and decision ever. I can never spell banana and decision. How do you spell banana? B-A-N-N-A-N-A. That was wrong. Oh, wow. It's even simpler. It's B-A-N-A-N-A. I thought there were two N's after the first A. See, like, they're not going to be able to fucking spell banana. That's going to be the problem. Or decision, dude. I can't spell decision. I always get that word so wrong when I spell decision. It's like, it's always so wrong, dude. It's so wrong. Okay, 2 more things I want to show, and then I'll get you guys out of here. One thing, going back to this travel theme. So this was reported this morning. 82% of adults in the United States, more than 212 million people, are planning to travel this summer. While this number is slightly lower than last year, it still demonstrates a strong desire to get away. So the argument we were saying in the beginning of the stream of in the market open of just like travel and like the consumer being healthy, if 210 million people in the United States are ready to travel, spend on Airbnbs and airplanes and cruises and food and all that stuff, I think it's going to be a good summer for the consumer, and companies in that space potentially might benefit off of it pretty dramatically. So that's going to be important. And then second thing and last thing I want to show, Elon Musk has started following Travis Kalanick on Twitter or X. Now, if you don't know who Travis Kalanick is, he is the founder of Uber. And he was ousted from the company in 2018 after there was a video that went viral of him basically like cursing out a driver. He got into an Uber, and then I don't know what the argument they got into, but he cursed out the Uber driver. This is the founder of the Uber company. And then there were reports that he's creating like a toxic bro culture in the company, all this shit. And then he basically, the board voted him out. So why is Elon following Uber? One could argue that maybe there's something cooking up in the context of robo-taxis, and Travis kind of being brought on to Tesla's, maybe not say board of directors, but let's say maybe he's an independent consultant, and he's going to help Tesla figure out how to build an Uber-like network autonomously. I mean, it's not that crazy to think that that's, I mean, if I wanted to build a competitor to Uber, which is what robotaxis are, I would just call up the Uber founder. I'm Elon Musk. I can call up anybody, and I'd be like, hey, dude, like, we'll give you like 10 million bucks. Can you help us build this thing? And maybe that's why he followed him. Who knows? This shit is bananas, as Melanie says. That's a Gwen Stefani song, right? Yeah, you guys are putting in the chat. That's a Gwen Stefani song. But that is one thing that's really interesting. And, you know, maybe it was Travis buying all those Tesla shares today. Probably not. But like, I think maybe there's an argument that something exciting is happening with Tesla. I don't think the 6% move was for nothing. Now, if we fall tomorrow 6% because we get bad delivery numbers, then I guess it was just a random algorithmic move on Tesla. But if not, then we are past the 200s and hopefully making our way to the 250s on Tesla. All right, there you go. That's what we got in the context of Tesla and the market close today. Last check on stocks. Bumble, wow, it's up 4% after hours. It was down 5%. That might be like a bug on Webull, but it was down 5% today. Walgreens down a little bit. Chewy up a little bit after hours. Again, that lawsuit was dismissed. Palantir 25.87 after hours. Robinhood 22.80. GameStop up a little bit, 23.37. Nvidia actually was green today, 124.30. Bitcoin 63.250. Tesla 209. And then the S&P was green again today, 545.34 on the day. Okay, cool. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Daily Palantir episode will be out in a couple of hours. We'll be back tomorrow live, 8:45 a.m. for the market open, and we will keep going from there. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a good one. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.